Welcome back to Books in Review from John316bookstore.com. Today we're going to be diving into a book that I think tackles a question that's on a lot of parents' minds these days. It's like, how do we raise our kids in a world that just feels kind of crazy sometimes?
It's a big question.
It is a big question, and there's a lot to be worried about.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
So the book that we're going to be talking about today is called The Deborah Mantle.
Okay.
It's by Christy Johnston, and it's really all about kind of empowering moms in particular.
Okay.
To be able to create positive change even when there's so much, craziness and fear going on in the world around us.
Yeah, and I think that's what I found so interesting about this book is that it really uses the biblical story of Deborah as a model for how to do that, how to kind of navigate those challenges.
Yeah.
So it's not about burying our heads in the sand and pretending that the negativity isn't there. But it's about how can we look to our faith and, really be empowered to rise above it.
Okay. So this book, it doesn't sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
It, admits that there are real fears that parents have.
Absolutely.
You mentioned things like school shootings. That's a big one that people think about.
Yeah. I mean, it names those fears right up front.
Right.
And it does it in a way that I think validates those feelings. Like, yeah, this is scary stuff. This is real stuff.
Yeah.
But then it shifts that focus into this really powerful idea, which is that instead of letting that fear just completely paralyze us, we as mothers can actually tap into our faith and what Johnston calls kingdom authority.
Okay.
To actually make a difference.
I love that idea of kingdom authority. I'm really curious about that.
It's a very cool concept.
What does that actually mean in this context?
Yeah, so the book kind of delves into this idea that as believers in Christ, we have a spiritual authority that comes directly from God.
Okay.
And it's not about, lording that over other people or trying to control others or anything like that. It's about aligning ourselves with God's will.
Right.
Acting as his instruments in the world.
Okay.
So it's about recognizing that we're not helpless in the face of, all the challenges that are out there.
I love that. Now, for those of us listening who maybe need a little reminder,
Sure.
Who was Deborah in the Bible?
Okay.
And why is her story relevant to this book?
Yeah, so Deborah was this really incredible woman who served as a judge and a military leader in ancient Israel.
Okay.
And, she stepped up at a time when her people were facing oppression, and she really helped to lead them to victory.
Wow.
And what's so striking is that she did all of this with this deep sense of reliance on God.
I see the connection.
Yeah.
So the book is saying that mothers today can kind of draw on that same strength and courage that Deborah had.
Exactly, and that those qualities are not limited to, biblical figures from thousands of years ago. These are available to us today, especially when we connect with our faith.
Yeah. I love that. So I know that this book also talks about some very practical ways that we can tap into that strength.
Yes.
It mentioned things like the secret place, divine solutions, confident humility, and even something called slaying giants. Can you break those down for us a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it. So let's start with the secret place.
Okay.
And this is this beautiful concept of making time for intentional prayer and connection with God.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, rattling off a wish list to God, like, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this. But it's about really cultivating that deep listening relationship with him.
Yeah.
And the book really emphasizes that this is where we find the clarity and the guidance that we need to navigate these really tough challenges.
Yeah, I think that resonates with a lot of people. It's easy to get so busy.
Oh, absolutely.
That we forget to kind of pause and just be quiet and listen for God's voice.
It's so true.
And that kind of leads into, I think, divine solutions.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So divine solutions is this idea that when we spend that time in the secret place, when we're really connecting with God, that's when we open ourselves up to receiving his wisdom and his strategies for how to deal with the situations that we're facing. And that, it's about trusting that he sees the bigger picture and that he has a plan even when we can't see it ourselves.
It's almost like shifting our perspective from, how do I fix this to, God, what do you want to do through this?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have this idea of confident humility,
Yes.
which sounds a little like an oxymoron.
Right.
How can you be both confident and humble?
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's about finding that balance between recognizing our own limitations and trusting in God's strength working through us. So it's about being bold and courageous, not because we think that we have all the answers,
Right.
but because we know that we're not alone.
Right.
We're walking hand in hand with the one who does.
It's not about our ego or our ability, but it's about being willing vessels for God's power.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, now, slaying giants.
Okay.
This sounds a little intense.
It just sounds intense.
Yeah, what's that all about?
But it's actually a very empowering metaphor.
Okay.
So think about the giants as those really overwhelming fears and challenges that we face as parents.
Okay.
You know, maybe it's worrying about our kids' safety. Maybe it's trying to navigate cultural influences that we don't agree with.
Yeah, those things that can feel like they're going to crush us.
Exactly. And the book encourages us to approach these giants with that same kind of faith and courage that Deborah had. And it's about recognizing that we have spiritual weapons at our disposal. Things like prayer, worship, declaring God's truth.
It can actually help us to overcome these challenges.
So it's not about ignoring the problems.
No.
It's about facing them head on, but with a spiritual perspective.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's where real transformation happens.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not just about changing our circumstances. It's about allowing those challenges to deepen our faith.
Yes.
And draw us closer to God.
That's the key.
And speaking of resources to deepen our faith, I want to remind everybody listening that you can find the Deborah Mantle and many other faith-based books at john316bookstore.com.
Absolutely.
It's a great website.
It's a wonderful resource.
If you're looking to deepen your faith,
yes,
especially as a parent, and approach parenting with a new sense of purpose. So to kind of wrap things up, I think the Deborah Mantle really offers a fresh perspective on raising kids in a world that can feel very challenging and overwhelming sometimes.
Yes.
But it reminds us that even when we're surrounded by fear and uncertainty,
we can tap into a source of strength that is greater than ourselves.
That's right.
And I love that. It leaves us with a thought-provoking question.
Yes, it does.
How can connecting with God's strength, just like Deborah did, help you face the giants in your own life and create a positive impact on the next generation?
Powerful question.
It is a powerful question. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Deborah Mantle.
It's been a pleasure.
And don't forget to check out john316bookstore.com for this book and many others that will inspire you on your journey. Thanks for listening to Books in Review from john316bookstore.com.